Hey everybody, this is Noah back for episode 28 of my series of thought bubbles. In case you are new here, welcome. This is basically my series where I talk about things that I like to think about and want to verbalize and leave it this little like video journal series. Anyway, today's episode 28. One, kind of crazy that we're close to 30. I feel like it's like time just flew by. Like I didn't, not that I didn't think I'd make it this far, but like, you know, it is kind of like nice to see that I'm be able to stay consistent. There's a chance, like, just based on schedule, because like work's been getting kind of busy and like life's been kind of getting busy, and like there's a lot of other things that I want to do. So there's a chance that I start changing it to one upload a week, but I'm not totally sure. But I'll let you know if I do. But for now, it'll still be the same schedule, two a week. Um, Life wise, football starting soon. Football starting soon. Uh, Anybody, just for reference, I'm a big sports head, as you can probably tell by the Super Bowl shirt. Big fan of football. Bigger fan of fantasy football. In fact, I've been mock drafting and practicing for my office league that I won last year, and I'm trying to win again. But the topic of today's video, and probably the reason you clicked on this video, is to hear me talk about whatever the title is. But basically, the topic of today's video is going to be about chronically online people, or like I think I fall into this category because, like, first of all, I think it's weird because like I'm in the generation of people who kind of like grew up with technology. Like, as I was growing up was kind of like when the iPhone started to come out, and then it's like each iteration of the iPhone, and then it's Samsung phones, and then it's like iPads and iPod touches. I think like my first piece of technology that I had was like an iPod touch when I was like in elementary school in like second grade or something. And then like I got like the Nintendo DSi, and then I played, I think my first video game ever was like Pokemon Platinum, which was probably a peak game to start on, I will say. But like it kind of started from that, and like I feel like my generation was kind of like the bridge into like this generation we have now, where like I feel like there's so many people that are like chronically online. And like this is weird, this is ironic for me to say, right? Because like I'm filming this and I'm posting it online, and so the only way you're able to see it is online. And I feel like there's so much power that comes from the internet, like I think it's really cool that you can talk with and work with people like who are miles, maybe hundreds of thousands of, like, thousands of miles away from you. Like I can call my friends in California through like the internet, like I can Discord call them, or like I could call somebody who's in Europe. Like maybe if I have a family member that's traveling to Japan, I can do that, and like these are all possibilities of things that like could happen. And like it's a great use for technology to be able to like do all of these things. But like on the same token, it's like I feel like real face-to-face communication, person, like physically, is so much better than like communicating online. Like when I talk to my friends, it's so much better when we're in person doing something rather than like just at home kind of talking through a screen. You know what I mean? Like I think it got really more pronounced for me, especially during COVID, when we were all like on virtual classes, we're all on Zoom, like my, for some reason my high school used Cisco WebEx, but like, when we're all indoors, it was kind of like, it's, yeah, you're talking to your friends, but it still feels really empty. You know what I mean? So I think there's no like replacing like physical, like face-to-face communication. I think that's the one thing. I think the other thing is just like we become so reliant on it that it's like almost, how do I put it, like it's just like easier, like I think a lot of people, instead of going out and talking to people, it's just I would rather be swiping on dating apps. You know what I mean? Like, or like I would rather just like be on like Discord playing games rather than like in person doing it. Like I mean, of course, like video games you can't really play in person, but like LAN parties, like that stuff like we used to do. Like we would all bring our laptops into the same room and then like play the same game together and like be able to talk to each other in person. And like it's so much better because like I remember we almost had something like that in college when like me and my friends would play Fortnite in our dorm rooms, or like in our house, and like we won a game, and then we all like threw our headsets down, we're all like running to high five each other, like stuff like that. And it's like that's like kind of lost because like it's almost so convenient that like it almost creates like this aura of like laziness, or like it's so like easy to just like use technology to call people that like people would almost rather just like do it through a screen than like do it in person sometimes. And I feel like that's kind of like, I don't know. I think the it's just frustrating because like I think for me one of the biggest places that I see it is like bowling alleys, like stuff like that where like this is a place where people used to be excited to go to sign up for leagues to do all this stuff, and like at the bowling alley that I practice at, they can barely like fill a weekend league because like people just don't go. And I'm like, you don't have to be good, you don't have to be whatever. There's no barrier to entry. Like people just don't go. There was a bowling alley in Hawaii called Pali Lanes that shut down because people didn't go. And then suddenly when they're closing, now it's like everybody wants to go. It's like, I think it's just frustrating because like there's no replacement for like in-person communication or like meeting people in person, and that like I feel like the plus side of technology, like being able to call people from the comfort of your own home or like talk to people or text people or do whatever you want, like that has kind of become like the replacement now for like actual in-face communication. I mean, like we have a whole term called like iPad kids, like it's kind of an insane term. I don't know like the exact like meaning of it, but like this whole term is because like this generation now that's growing up like right now is like growing up on solely technology. They didn't like grow up without it or like as it was coming up, because like my generation, I'm like 23, we're like the bridge generation, right, over to like now where everybody is just like there's I see videos of kids crying when you take away their iPad, like, and it's just like it's like when I was that age I didn't even care. I was just playing baseball, you know what I mean, like, or doing something. Like they're so, I don't know. I think it's like there's so much good that comes from technology of being able to do it, but it's like the amount of power that it has and like the leisure that it brings has almost made people in a sense like get used to it and become like quote unquote like, I don't know if like lazy is the right word, but I just feel like even for me, like when I'm reflecting on my own life, I'm like there's so many things I want to do, like, and like the week of like talking to my friends or like scheduling a hangout. But it's like, if I want to schedule a hangout, this person's busy. This person just has to go home right after work because they got to eat dinner with their family. This person has to do this. And it becomes like such like a hassle to do things in person that like, it's almost like you're conditioned to just basically just ask already, like, hey, do we want to just like hop online on Discord and just play games? Like something like that. And like, I it's just like I don't know if like sad's the right word, because it's like I think it's still nice to have some connection, like some connection is better than none, but I feel like we're so like chronically just like online that like we're losing the connection with each other, if that makes sense. Like I feel like in my friend group, I think it's specific mostly because my friend group's like a bunch of gamers. Like we're a bunch of gamers, right? Like we're a bunch of nerds, respectfully, in the most respectful way possible. We're a bunch of nerds, but like when you have like this group, it's like hard to convince people to like go out and try and do things or like go on hikes or go on like something. And it's like, oh, I'll go with this person, and it's like it's such a hassle because like you're just so used to doing small things, staying indoors, like, you know what I mean? And like I don't know if this is just like a thing that's like happening now just because of technology, because I do think like COVID probably played a part in it, I mean, for 2 years we basically just sat inside and did nothing. And like, when you don't talk to people for a long time, you kind of get like conditioned, I guess is the right way to say it. I don't know. But like you kind of like it kind of builds up like a habit of like your first reflex is just to be like, let's just hop on call or like hop on whatever, like hop on Fort, hop on like whatever it might be, right? And it's like it's so online that it's like I don't know. It's just it's nice to have because for sure having something is better than nothing. But it's like so frustrating that like I think even in my life for me that it's just frustrating that I'm like so chronically online. Like I think there's times where like, when I'm staying up late and I'm just like watching something or I'm like doom scrolling or whatever, and then like it turns out I've stayed up too late and now like I'm tired the next day, and then I'm like, it's so easy to just get trapped like in the online circle, especially like in social media, right? If you're just like on reels scrolling, like you blink and it's like 2 hours into the future, like, and like what's it called? I think that's another thing too, that like I feel like we're getting pulled more towards like being online because every social media app, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, right? Like TikTok, all that stuff, like it condition, like the way the apps are set up is made for you to spend the most hours on it, right? Like the apps are built to keep you addicted, and like that's leading to people becoming chronically online, including me. Like I feel like I'm like trying to be more self-aware about how much time I spend on my phone, like especially like when I wake up in the morning. I used to have like a pretty bad habit of like the first thing I check is like my phone, what's going on, like did I get any notifications for anything, like then doing like dailies for games, whatever, and like doing this. And it's like it's a pretty bad habit because it's like I feel like it's just a waste of time. I think like everyone tells you you have like one life and whatever, but like it is pretty true. And like there's a lot of things that I want to like do and chase, and if I spend all my time just like sitting on Instagram reels or whatever, then like it's kind of like a waste, and like um I've been trying to be more mindful, at least of my use, but I've noticed like for a while it was just like, I would spend a lot of time on like just scrolling, doom scrolling on my phone, or like just sitting inside like playing games. And it's like, if you're somebody who wants to meet new people, that's just not, it's just not a, like those two things cannot, it's like oil and water, they don't mix, like you can't just stay inside but still want to like meet new people, like you can't want face-to-face communication but all you do is sit and scroll on dating apps or scroll on like social media, and that's all you do. Like it's like those two things are like counterintuitive, they're mutually exclusive. You can't have one, you can't have both, basically, right? And like I think I'm at a point where like I've noticed that like I want something like to be a bit more active, let's just say, right? And like go out and do things. And I can't do that if I like as soon as I get home start watching like YouTube video or whatever, right? Like I can't start conversations with people if I'm just eating when I'm, or like let's say I go out to dinner, you can't have conversations with people if you're just on your phone. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it's a bad habit that I need to break for sure. And like I don't know if it's just like a byproduct of me growing up online, but like, I think it's just there's a lot of good. I think such a hard topic for me to think about because there's a lot of good that I think has come out of like using technology to communicate with people. But like I feel like there's so many apps and so many like video games and stuff like that that like make it so addicting, especially for kids. I feel like that's a super big thing for kids. Like in your formative years, like you should go out and have fun and like have like childlike whimsy. And like I feel like you still should, even if like you're a bit older, take care of your inner child and all that jazz. But like, you know what I mean? Like if you just spend your life on video games and social media, then like I feel like you just like miss out on so many like experiences and things, which is kind of where I'm at, where like I want to experience more and live my life to the fullest. And like there's a lot of things that I want to do that like, I waste too much time on social media or whatever it is. Like, so been trying to be a bit more mindful about that. But like, I feel like it's just like a thing for like, especially parents. Like, I know like people don't want to like, I feel like cutting them off isn't the right way to say it, but like, I guess teaching them to be more like mindful of their use of like what they browse, how long they spend time, like how much time they spend on it, I think is like super important. But like, it's just hard because there's so much, like I mentioned it, I'm probably like circling, but like there's so much good that comes from the use of social media, right? Like how I mentioned being able to talk to people from over really long distances, like being able to play games and experience like things online that are super super fun. But with it comes like a lot of dangers of like becoming chronically online, becoming like kind of like addicted to like doom scrolling, or like waking up and your first reflex is just to grab for your phone, or like etc. So you know what I mean? Like it trains your brain to like become hooked on it, which is the point, because like that's the whole business model, right? Is like you spend more time on the app, they get more money. That's just kind of how it goes, right? But it causes, I think, a lot of, for me at least, what I noticed is like in my life there's a lot of times where like, you know it's just easier to just do it online, and I feel like it feels me like, or it makes me feel like less fulfilled about the whole experience. Like hanging out with friends is so much better in person. But just generally trying to be a bit more mindful about my use, get to bed on time, make sure that like health is priority, and like taking care of myself, and like staying less off of my phone, and like just experiencing the world around me a bit more, because like I think oh, this is one last point too. I think like social media a lot of times too can become like a coping mechanism that like you kind of like escape into like a different reality of whatever's on your phone, which is good, I think, in some cases. But I think it's so much better to just like sit there and process things and like really meditate and think things through. But everyone has their own like mechanisms, but that's like another, like, I guess, plus, but also negative. But it's like kind of, I don't know. I just think like for me, I've grown up with technology my whole life, and like I feel like I'm like slightly chronically online. I don't know if chronically is the right word, but I'm definitely like more online than I should be, and like I'm trying to be a bit more mindful of it so I can chase the things that I want to chase. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully enjoyed. If you did, like, subscribe. If you have any thoughts about being chronically online, or also in the same boat as me where you want to get offline a bit more and do things like more in the real world, comment something down below, if you'd like. Or if you'd like to see a different video of mine, I'm going to throw the little playlist up there, which is all the videos that are in this series of thought bubbles that I have. And here's the little subscribe button if you don't want to scroll down and click it. But as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I can see you in a different thought bubble, I guess. See ya.